strengigheid. At jeg hepper til noe ørlog for slite. Og kijk vers van niedinger ella. Det strengigheid. At jeg hepper til noe ørlog for slite. Og kijk vers van niedinger ella. Det strengigheid. My blood will live on. Valhalla awaits.
All right, let's talk about a movie called The Northman.
I will avenge you, Father.
I will avenge you, Father.
I will save you, Mother.
I will save you, Mother.
I will kill you if you let me.
Co-written and directed by Robert Eggers, this is his third film since his powerhouse horror movie debut, The Witch, and 3 years after his seminal 2018 project, The Lighthouse. Robert Eggers has a distinct style. His films employ a hyper-detailed production that includes exhaustive research and meticulous preoccupation to detail. His style is buoyed by the keen eye of cinematographer Jaron Blaschke. Eggers makes films of grand mysticism, haunting tragedy, and unearthly grotesquerie. His first film, The Witch, delivered a tale of a Puritan-era family finding themselves afoul of a supernatural entity. The Witch instantaneously put Robert Eggers in esteemed regard among horror aficionados, but it was his sophomore film, The Lighthouse, that prominently signaled his arrival as an incomparable filmmaker. The Lighthouse was about a motley duo of lighthouse keepers who find themselves at the mercy of their escalating madness. Both films highlight the malignant nature of fanatical masculine pride. The Witch sees the patriarch of the family precipitate their exile and eventual satanic corruption through stubborn religious defection. The Lighthouse sees the two keepers feed off each other's paranoid psychosis after several failed attempts at communication and vulnerability. The communication breakdown due to a festering distrust, recognizable in most men with an inability to practice intimacy. Robert Eggers has an ear for the male insecurity and the subsequent collateral damage. He paints his brand of horror with surrealist flair that recalls Ingmar Bergman. Stanley Kubrick.
Here's Johnny.
And silent film horror classics like Haxan. And Nosferatu. Enter The Northman, a vicious, visceral Viking-themed historical action drama influenced by a number of ancient Danish manuscripts, primarily the legend of Amleth, which would go on to inspire Shakespeare's own tragic tale of Hamlet, and also by the Arnold Schwarzenegger sword and sorcery epic, Conan the Barbarian.
Between the time when the oceans drank Atlantis and the rise of the sons of Arius, there was an age undreamed of. And unto this, Conan, destined to bear the jeweled crown of Aquilonia upon a troubled brow.
Hear me, Odin, all-father of the gods. Summon the shadows of ages past, when the thread-spinning Norns ruled the fates of men. Hear of a princess' vengeance quenched at the fiery gates of hell. A prince destined for Valhalla. Hear me.
The idea for making the film originated from a meeting between Robert Eggers and star Alexander Skarsgård, who had lobbied for working on a Viking-themed movie for several years prior. Another chance meeting between Robert Eggers and Björk brought in the influential input of Icelandic poet and regular Björk collaborator Jörn, which solidified the Northman's bearing. The Northman's story is a relatively simple one. A young prince vows revenge on his father's murderer, who is also his uncle. It's a tale that is readily recognizable.
Strike.
Strike! To Valhalla!
and for some perhaps not terribly captivating, but one would be an error to skip any story adapted under Eggers' unexampled direction. The Northman follows young Amleth from wide-eyed youth to embittered and hardened avenger. Although the transformation occurs mostly off-screen, the violent implications are poignantly stated by motifs of vengeance and emotionally stunted obsession. The Northman plays like the anti-Gladiator, Ridley Scott's overly romanticized and somewhat sanitary example of the classic revenge story. The Northman shows the ineffectual aftermath of violence, the delusions of vengeance, and the foolishness of overzealous respect for the dead. There's no cleanliness to Amleth's journey, no reason or rationale beyond a rudimentary sense of obligation. The Northman shows the folly of pride, and breaks convention by showcasing Amleth's quixotic rampage as something truly barbaric. In contrast, the revenge fantasy is played out in The Gladiator as the whole point of the movie. The Northman shows that fantasy as a big part of the protagonist's myopic mania. The result of his revenge is impotent to all but himself. The conclusion to Amleth's journey at the gates of hell is a foregone one, a bare iron-to-iron duel where our protagonists and antagonists find themselves intertwined in each other's violent essences. The scene is a concise and perfectly realized battle sequence, quickly resolved with ferocity and guttural exclamation. The cast was mostly superb. Alexander Skarsgård was excellent in his hulking, berserker rage-fueled portrayal. He exuded so much hatred, pain, and desire in his brutish scowl and fearsome physique, sculpted, it seemed, by volcanic vigor. Anya Taylor-Joy is a modern great, but I feel like she was miscast, except for one standout scene toward the end of the film. Ethan Hawke was extremely believable as King Orvandil. The man is a chameleon and an underrated performer, although he has experienced something of a renaissance recently.
Your kingdom will not last. Let this misdeed haunt your living nights, till a flaming vengeance scorches on your dead.
Nicole Kidman is pro, but she was also miscast. Her look didn't exactly match the tone of the film. Willem Dafoe shows up for a cameo and gave a suitably wild portrayal. Bjork delivers her own wild cameo, which suited her personality almost too well.
For where your path of ashes ends, another will begin her journey. A maiden king.
Release me.
You cannot escape what fate the Norns have spun.
Skarsgård was expected to carry the lion's share, and he delivered with a thoroughly muscular performance, both literally and figuratively. His lycanthropic intensity hurtled my senses into energy overdrive. The score by Robert Carolyn and Sebastian Gainsborough was authentically epic-sounding, ushering the action on screen into a realm of heightened drama, sharpening the grimy hardness of that period with booming chants, thunderous percussion, and roughshod horns. But it's the cinematography and the deliberate camera work that truly make The Northman a special treat, a project meant for the big screen experience. The visuals are stunning. The landscapes are on glorious display in soaring wide shots. The filthiness of the characters' appearances in unscrupulous view. The action scenes are shot with bone-crunching, flesh-ripping intention and unabashed authenticity. The Berserker raid in the second chapter was particularly well choreographed and teeth-gnashingly gruesome. I felt the hardness of the Marauders' intentions, the despair in their victims' death throes, and the utter apathy and the blood-soaked outcome. The camera ventures deep into the maelstrom and stays steadfast in its gaze of the brutality of conquest. The film's highly detailed world highlights Eggers' indefatigable research of bona fide Viking traditions and customs. He consulted with a number of experts, including archaeologist Neil Price, folklorist Terry Gunnell, and Viking historian Johanna Katrin Fredriksdottir, to build his vision on a foundation of painstaking realism. This kind of effort helped immerse me into the film's world in a way that many modern films struggle to accomplish. The brutally impassioned environments in which our characters inhabit felt documentarian, an expected signal of Eggers' unique artistry. Viking folklore and legend have always been popular cinema. Thor has become Disney Marvel's favorite son, and some of my favorite action-adventure movies include Viking themes. Take the woefully underrated 1999 Antonio Banderas vehicle, The 13th Warrior.
Lo, there do I see my father. Lo, there do I see my mother and my sisters and my brothers. Lo, there do I see the line of my people. Back to the beginning.
No, they do call to me. They bid me take my place among them.
In the halls of Valhalla,
Where the brave
they live.
forever.
The similarly forgotten 2007 animated gem Beowulf.
I am Ripper, Terror, Slasher. I am the teeth in the darkness, the talons in the night. Mine is strength and lust and power. I am Beowulf!
And finally, one of the masterworks of the 2000s, Nicolas Winding Refn's Valhalla Rising.
Does the mute have a name?
His name is One Eye. You need a name, and you've only got one eye.
You Christians?
Yes?
You're lying.
The brilliance of The Northman includes the story of its production. Robert Eggers had the balls to make a surreal, big-budget action drama about an obscure Danish legend that's more than 2 hours long, is unrepentantly violent, isn't shy about the fantasy elements of the lore, and ends with two naked buff dudes fighting to the death while they roar at each other like a couple of crazed bears. The Northman is a film that bites back, roars with furious intent, and ripped at my viewing experience with iron clash. Here is a challenging viewing where you get to see a classic story told through the vision of one of cinema's singular and innovational auteurs. These kinds of big movies simply aren't made anymore, but similar to Jordan Peele and a few others, Robert Eggers revels in insisting against the grain. The Northman gets a "I'll see you at the gates of hell" out of 10.